Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Christopher Riley from the Office of Diversity and Multicultural Affairs. I'm the Assistant Director of the office, and today I have the distinct pleasure of moderating a thought-provoking discussion, STEM, Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics, and we have three professionals that represent that awesome industry. And we would like for each one to introduce themselves, and we'll start with the lovely lady in purple to my right.
My name is Marna Renteria. I am a process quality technician.
My name is Tyra Watson. I am a nursing educator for Parkview Health.
My name is Jeff Nowalk. I'm a science educator here at IPFW and director of the Northeast Indiana STEM Education Resource Center.
Who or what inspired you to pursue a STEM-related career field? And we'll start with Marna.
Actually, what I can remember the best is, for some reason, I loved trucks when I was a little kid. I was a little girl, girly girl, but I liked my two favorite toys that I can remember is a 16-wheeler little white truck, tractor trailer, and 18-wheeler, sorry, and also a dump truck that actually rotated, and I throw mud in there and everything. So I still had my Barbies and everything. And also, my mom remembers that when I was really little, she got a new piano, and the difference between my sister and I was that she right away sat down and started playing music and figuring out music. I got underneath and tried to figure out how it worked.
And I have, as long as I can remember, just have really liked people. And I had an aunt who was a nurse, and I wanted to grow up and be like my Aunt Ray. So I'm a nurse.
Well, I'm a science educator, and I'm a former high school teacher and middle school teacher. I think for me, going into STEM started with my middle school science teacher, Mr. Dashner, and then I had great science educators. I remember Mr. Engel and Mr. Feder, my physics and chemistry teachers in high school, really inspired me. When I made it to work on a master's degree at Ball State, I had the geology technician there help me build my first computer and learn how to program that. So I've had mentors who helped me figure out how things work, and also in education you're always working with people, so I think it's similar to my colleagues. Working with people and being able to figure out how things work and having good mentors to inspire and assist me in that process were encouraging and helped me to get to where I am today.
And speaking of getting to where you are today, talk about your educational process. And we'll start with Jeff.
Okay. For myself, the educational process started with, in 9th through 12th grade, I took school seriously. I made sure I took college prep classes, and then I worked hard to get good grades. That helped me to then get a scholarship to go to college, and I went to Ohio Northern University, which was a smaller campus, but with the scholarships it made it affordable, and with my grades I was able to also get employment on campus as a student, and so that helped to pay for school. And then I worked in the summers, and then by doing well there, and as a biology education major, well, a dual major, as a Bachelor of Science in Biology, and then also a science education dual major, I was able to get a graduate assistantship to go to Ball State and come to Indiana and get a degree in geology. And then after that, I took a job as a high school teacher, and then I taught middle school, and then went to Bloomington on another graduate assistantship, so another scholarship, to help me get a PhD in science education. And so good grades going all the way back to taking school seriously in 9th grade and taking college prep courses and working hard to get good grades has helped me through the process educationally to then get a PhD. And then as I was working on my dissertation, I had a phone call to come here to IPFW. Would I be interested in a one-year visiting instructorship? And so I came for that 1 year, and that was about 11 or 12 years ago. I'm still here.
Tyra.
Okay. I started, of course, in regards to college. I went to Purdue in West Lafayette, and then transferred here to IPFW. I graduated with my associate degree in nursing, and then went on for my bachelor's. And right now I am at Western Governors University, and I am completing my master's in nursing leadership. And in regards to how I got where I'm at in regards to my current position and in the education process, I have been taught at different programs around in the local area, in the nursing programs for nursing education, as well as I've been in leadership positions. So that is where I'm at in completing my education in nursing leadership. So that's where I'm at.
Morena.
I received my bachelor's degree from Florida A&M after graduating with a high school diploma that included advanced classes in Spanish. And so after I graduated, I started working at Navistar. And back at Florida A&M, I also took classes for Spanish. So while I was studying I started as a business major, and then I changed my major to engineering because it was an interesting transition, because in one business class where we had to ask questions to a company, Kimberly Clark was there, and they were talking about the design of a toothbrush, and instead of listening to the guy go on and talk about the business side, I was like, well, who designed the angle of the brush and the strength of the bristles? And so when I started asking questions, they said mechanical engineering is the way you need to be going. So I changed my major to mechanical engineering. I also studied Spanish because I was, very interested in languages, and I studied Spanish and translation while I was at Florida A&M. And then I graduated, started at Navistar, and then continued studying Spanish on a college level at IPFW. So I got my associates in Spanish there, and then also they supported me to get the MBA. So I got an MBA while at Indiana Wesleyan while I was at Navistar. So, and I love learning, as you can tell.
And Morena, how has being bilingual helped you career-wise?
Oh, it's helped me a lot. It's really helped me to broaden my horizons, because even as an engineer, as a project engineer at Navistar, my job didn't involve, well, that's not true. My first year, actually, I got an opportunity to go to Mexico, but my specific job didn't require much bilingual communication. However, in one meeting that we were at one of the other plants, they said, who would like to be involved in a special project in Mexico? And I was the only one to raise my hand. And it turns out they really weren't supposed to ask for volunteers there. But because of my skills, my boss said, hey, let her go. So I went there for 4 weeks, which turned into 5 weeks, and I was able to help communicate with that project as a first-year engineer, and I was there. And so all through my years at Navistar, I looked for opportunities, and I volunteered myself for opportunities to either learn more about the automotive multilingual world, or offer myself as help with language issues. So it helped a lot, and it still helps me.
College students often state that they don't know when they will use the certain courses or certain information. Which college courses are you utilizing the most that you initially thought you wouldn't? And we'll start with Tyra.
I think that, as I was thinking about that question, initially, like the communication, the social sciences, I'm like, yeah, I'm not really, because I really needed to know all the science stuff, the anatomy and physiology, the pharmacology. However, that has served to be extremely important, because in dealing with people and emotions and behind the scenes emotions, that has been something that was really important. And so learning how to communicate, learning about your verbal and nonverbal, and how important it is, and not only with patients, but with coworkers, with my leaders, with those that, as I was a leader, working for the people who worked for me. So I think those classes that I didn't think were that important have turned out to be extremely important.
Jeff.
I think a lot of times you hear the phrase, ignorance is bliss, but knowledge is really empowering. And when I think about the courses I've taken, some of them, when I was taking them, I thought, when am I going to use this? Is this going to ever be useful to me? But what I've discovered is in that all of the STEM areas, they relate to everything around us. And there's so much that impacts us every day on a daily basis that unless you have the knowledge that is empowering to understand what's going on, you may go to a forest and enjoy nature, but to sit there and to be understanding how water is getting from underground to the top of really tall trees, and it's so important that ice floats. I mean, people don't think about it, but the fact that ice floats allows for life to continue, and all these cool things that the knowledge just never lets you down. Having more knowledge never hurts, and it helps me appreciate everything from cooking in the kitchen to when I'm driving my car, and when it breaks down, I can have a better understanding of how to troubleshoot. So I've found that it never hurts to know more. Ignorance is only bliss because you don't know what you're missing.
Marna.
Okay. When I was in grade school, part of my grade school education was at a Catholic school, even though I wasn't Catholic. And one of the required classes was Latin, and I had learned a little bit of Spanish, second or third grade. But by the time I took the Latin class, I didn't connect it. I didn't understand, when am I going to use Latin? I hated it, and I didn't really care for the professor either. But it's the basis of Spanish language. It's all Latin-based languages: Spanish, Romanian, Italian, French. So it was a really big help to be able to learn the basics of putting languages together, as opposed to just learning casual speaking of Spanish. He helped me learn the structure of language.
Walk us through your professional experiences that have prepared you for your current position, and we'll start with Marna.
My answer to this is that I don't have any. My current position as quality tech at Michelin is so much different than my previous work at Navistar as a project engineer, and then later as a global publication and translations manager in the service department. So when I started at this job, they trained us for weeks. I mean, we went to headquarters in South Carolina and learned a lot of knowledge about the background that we would need on a really deep level. But what I wasn't prepared for was the actual quick pace. The area I'm responsible for makes inner liner for the tires and also the steel belt separators. And the continuous operation there is very fast paced and very quick. The book knowledge that I learned didn't prepare me, and the previous work experience also didn't prepare me to work with union workers that are focused on making liner. I have to communicate with them, but I had to find ways to communicate with them without interrupting them, without being abrupt, getting to know them first, learning how they do what they do, even though I can't do it, technically, or, according to the rules, I can't do what they do. But learning how to do it just a little bit in order to be able to communicate with them much better. That's something you can't really learn unless you're in production. I mean, if you have previous production experience, then you already know that. And so that was a big shock for me. And I've grown a lot from that.
As a follow-up question, Marna, talk about the importance of critical thinking and some of those lessons that you learn in the academy that's helpful when you get into a position that you may not be as familiar with.
Well, for example, I'll throw out an example of when there's a point where you need to inform someone of a different way to do things. There's a very positive way to present it, and there's a very awkward way to present it, so where you can lose the communication with the person. And Michelin's great at offering educational opportunities to be able to learn how to communicate better. And so critical thinking is very important in how to approach someone to speak about, procedures, process changes, trials that might need to be done, different ways of doing things. And so at that moment, when you talk to the person, it's not just going up to them and just opening your mouth to say something. You got to prepare, you got to think, you got to look at seeing what they're doing first and be able to know how to communicate better with them.
Dr. Nowak.
Well, I think your initial question was how did our experiences prepare us for our job today? And the nice thing about STEM is that the critical thinking and problem solving are so key that in today's society, in today's workforce, you have to be able to adapt and adjust sometimes rather quickly. But I was very fortunate in that, I had a degree in biology and science education, then I got a master's in geology, and then when I received my first high school teaching job, we had teams that I was on. So I was on a team of veteran biology teachers and veteran chemistry teachers and veteran physics teachers. Some of the teachers in my department had been presidential award-winning teachers in their fields. And that really prepared me well when I had no idea that I would someday end up at IPFW and be a professor of STEM education with such a range of in-service and pre-service teachers, some that are going to want to be early childhood all the way through high school. That those experiences of working with those individuals who are experts, being mentored by them in all of the STEM areas, as well as in the technology areas with people like Mike Kudis from Ball State, who helped me build and program computers, and then I started helping others fix their computers, and those kinds of experiences, because they were so broad, have helped me today, where you never know what the needs are going to be from your students, and they're coming from so many different perspectives, that if they want to be an early childhood instructor, or if they need help with Spec 20 or a nuclear scalar or gel electrophoresis experiment, I've at least got enough background to know who to talk to or to get the right equipment to help them get the job done. So I've been fortunate in a breadth of experiences that have helped me prepare, mostly because I've had great mentors and I've sought out great mentors. I've been intentional about trying to seek out people who I could learn from.
Tyra.
For nursing, so most certainly what has prepared me is being initially at the bedside, so as a bedside nurse, learning to take care of patients, and then as I had, my goal was to move into leadership positions, and so I had done that just in small steps. I had been a nursing supervisor, which is a person who basically, when all the managers go home or all the leadership during in the evening and night shift, then the house supervisor is the one who basically is the person in charge of the hospital, making sure everything is running properly. If there's any issues or concerns, they're your go-to person. So I was in that position, then moved up to a nursing manager position, so of a particular unit. And then I actually this is my second time in education. However, what has prepared me the most is really being a nurse, because I know what the bases are of patient care. But being in educator prior and being in leadership prior, I know exactly what is expected of us from regulatory agencies, what is expected of us from the patient, what is expected of the nurse from, just many different aspects of the hospital. So I think that as an educator now, and I teach nurses and unlicensed staff that are hired on at Parkview, and they all come to our department for about a week. And so we really hit really hard on things that are or in general to the entire hospital. So customer service, why is it so important, that we provide excellent customer service? And so I can go in depth with that, not just saying it's really good that you smile and be nice to someone, but it is really, there's a science behind it. And so we really need to be intentional with the care that we give, how we give it, and as well as the book knowledge and your people skills. Why is it so important? So I think that what has prepared me is everything that I've done in nursing in order to be able to help a new nurse or a new employee, a person who's going to school for nursing. I bring that to the table. And so my goal is to prepare them for all of those things, and not just one aspect of healthcare, but looking at it globally, because healthcare is certainly that, not just being a nurse at the bedside. So.
And as a follow-up question, Tyra, you were a nursing manager on the Med-Surg unit.
Yes.
Talk about that experience and what Med-Surg is, in case we do have a nurse, a pre-service nurse out there in, I was getting ready to say radio land, but out in internet land.
Okay, so I was the manager of a medical surgical unit, and that was at Parkview North before we have become the big Parkview Regional Medical Center. And that unit was pretty much like a community hospital. So we cared for patients that were medical, that maybe had come in with pneumonia or a stomach problem. In regards to surgical, they may have had a simple surgery. So we took care of those patients. We had pediatric patients, so children. We had orthopedic patients, so they had orthopedic procedures, so a knee replacement. We cared for hospice patients, patients that were there and they were preparing to die, and we cared for them in their last days. So really just about everything we had, we took care of those patients. And that was a wonderful experience in regards to not just getting different experiences in regards to patient care, but also looking at the differences that we had, the skills that the nurses and I had to know in order to care for those patients. Again, not just good, but our quality at Parkview, we have, the expectation is excellent. And so we had to give excellent care, not just mediocre. So I had to know then, what is it that I needed to offer the nurses in regards to continued education, in regards to different experiences, so that they would be prepared to take care of any patient that came to that med-surg unit. So it was great because I had a global aspect, and then being able to move forward and then taking that again in regards to education, it helps because I know what the expectation is of the manager, of the educator, of the bedside nurse, of the unlicensed staff, and being able to, project that or give that to the new employees that are coming to Parkview.
And Dr. Nowak, you kind of hit on this in your last answer, but take a moment and talk about the importance of mentoring in your profession and cite some examples of you being mentored and then you serving as a mentor.
Well, I think mentorship is the key. The support of, family, friends, and mentors is critical as you're developing your career and growing, and just in everyday life in general. But the mentorship I received, I can remember Mr. Anderson when I was struggling with middle school math. I did seek him out, and I talked to my parents and like, hey, I'm struggling in this area of Algebra 1, and they arranged for after school. They actually, at one point, they even dropped me off at his house because he was the wrestling coach, and he had helped me with some homework one-on-one so I could really understand it because I was starting to fall behind. I can remember Mr. Ingold, our chemistry professor, coming out and helping me. But there are even other times when you want to take advantage of opportunities. I can remember one time as a junior in high school in a chemistry class where I wasn't following chemistry, and another chemistry teacher, it was a big high school, she came by, and I was trying to figure out this problem, and I was asking a fellow student who was a bright student. I was intentional about trying to do well in school, so I would seek out those who were the best in whatever it was, and I was friends with everybody. You want to be friends with everybody, but if you need to know an answer, you try to go to those who know the answer. And so I was asking her a question, and this other chemistry teacher happened to be walking by. And we were talking about molar ratios and some other things where the numbers can get pretty large. And she said, and I'll never forget this, I was an 11th grader, she said, just put simple numbers in there. You know what 6 divided by 2 is, right? Pretend 1's a 6 and 1's a 2. Make sure that you understand how the formula works. You get in the ballpark, then use the numbers that are more difficult to use. That helped me throughout the rest of my math career, going all the way through calculus in college and stats and other things like that concept. So, and of course, as a teacher myself and as an educator myself, I try to remember how others have helped me, and I can also remember it was my 9th grade science teacher. He wrote, "Anything worth having is worth working for," in my yearbook. And I had another teacher who told me, he said, everything I've done. Actually, there was a pastor who told me. He said, everything that I've been able to instill in you and ways I've helped you, the best way you can thank me is to do that for others. So the best way that you can help others is that have invested in you and to say thank you, is to share that, to pass it forward, to pass it on. And so I try to do that. That's one of the reasons why I'm an educator now. If I can help others, then I'm saying thank you to those who have helped me.
Okay. Well, that's one of the things to watch out for as you begin your career is pride, because I was 11 years at Navistar. I was very comfortable there, and I came to an unfamiliar situation at the vehicle refurbishment plant, and I wanted to show that I could handle things without asking for help. Who am I going to ask for help? I'm supposed to be an 11-year veteran of the automotive industry. Why would I need help? I just went through 5 weeks of training. I should know what I'm doing, right? But that was wrong. I should have seen that I was struggling to get used to things, and I needed to seek out someone right away. And I think even when I did ask for help, I was asking the wrong people, and that person helped me find a good mentor, a solid mentor that I could go to that was objective, that wasn't in my immediate work area. so they can be more removed and objective and help me see things from another view and help me through all the changes and now through the goals that I have as well. So that's how that mentor has helped me, and I also have what I kind of call co-mentors, that they don't really know they're my mentors. But if I have a specific situation, I have categories of people that I can go to and ask, and I'm not afraid to ask anymore. I'm not prideful to say that I can do this on my own. That's kind of silly now that I think about it, because we all need each other. It's not just a sappy thing to say. We really do. We're a team.
And how have you been able to help others as a mentor?
Oh, right. Yes, the younger quality techs that come out of college have to do the same thing I do in their respective departments, and I have 11 years of experience. So we have a combination. You have me, who has lots of experience, but in a different area of the automotive industry, from engineering as opposed to actual process quality of the running line in manufacturing. You have someone with years of experience in manufacturing as well, and then you have people straight out of college. And so we all have the same job titles. We have the same job responsibilities and expectations, and we all struggle in our separate ways. So I was able to talk to some of the younger engineers, and also they helped me too. And matter of fact, we help each other. We talk to each other about our struggles, and so I'm also able to help the actual line workers. When job opportunities came up, I was able to encourage them and say, hey, this job is open. You might not have all the requirements, but you have a lot of experience on the line, and that's very valuable. So I encourage those people to go for their goals and go for those experiences, even things that they don't necessarily see as their goals right now, that I'm able to help them see, hey, this is a possibility for you. Look out for this, and things like that.
Tyra.
In regards to my personal life and spiritual life, I felt like I have lots of mentors who have been there to support me throughout my education and career, and I have been very appreciative of that. When I was actually in nursing and actually pursuing a leadership position, I really did not have a mentor. Other than, my family, my aunt who's a nurse, who in prayer. And so I think that it is extremely important, and I am saddened that I really did not have anybody that was a formal mentor for myself. I think that as I pursued my career in leadership and as I actually opened up to people, it backfired. And so I think that has, put, again, not necessarily a negative, but it was a negative, and because I think I really needed a structured mentor, and someone in either my organization or outside that I actually could go to and say, okay, this is my problem, how do I handle it in this other way, in this leadership type way, and not just where I had been used to handling it, because lots of politics and all kind of other stuff come into play. So, and actually, and one of the things that as I'm in school now, I'm actually going through and looking at the benefits of a mentorship program within nursing. And I can't believe that, we're actually working toward that, because it has, the research is there that says, this is how you get successful nurses. This is how you get successful leaders. This is how they succeed, is that they actually have a mentor. So I am a part of a Chi Eta Phi, which is a nursing sorority, and there are many professional nurses that are in the sorority. So I have really latched onto them, and when I determine, what is it that I'm next going to do, and try and figure that out, and actually, have those relationships now in getting, advice from them. In regards to how I give back, because I really do feel that it's extremely important that you can have somebody there that you trust and that can give you good and honest feedback. is I volunteer with our sorority. We do lots of education in regards to health education in the community. We go to different schools, high schools, elementary schools, middle schools, talking to people, young people about nursing. I open myself up, the children at church. I'm our Sunday school superintendent. And so I always work with our children and always telling them, you have questions, you want to know how to do this, Christopher, or, call me, but in regards to the schooling. So I put myself out there for young people, for anyone, even, they don't have to be a young person, but if I can, give you advice, if I can help you out, then I want to do that, because I don't want to see anybody have to go through a situation. I just, what I felt like could have been, better. And maybe, like you said, Mr. Nowak, that you actually sought someone. And I don't know that I really knew that I needed to seek someone out in regards to leadership. So I know that now, that it is important that you do know how to communicate at different levels and with different people and at different positions. And I think a mentor is a perfect person, or the whole concept to help someone do that.
The STEM industry is ever-changing, largely due to the growth of technology. What are some of the significant changes that you have seen throughout your career? And to this end, why is professional development and continuing education so important? And we will start with Marna.
Okay. One thing I remember when I was working in Navistar in engineering was the drafters that had been there for 20, 30 years started off. They showed a picture of a huge room with big drafting boards and guys, and they were all guys, sitting there, designing truck parts and components by hand. And it was amazing to see that. And 30 years later, here we are, the same room, but filled with computers, and each one is at a computer. And so those gentlemen had to learn how to use those computer programs, the CAD programs, and some did better than others. Some moved into some other areas of engineering, of work that maybe they weren't so comfortable with the computer. Others excelled. I remember one gentleman that was very advanced in years, but he was pro at computers. I remember he latched on to cell phones and texting and everything as soon as it came out, because not necessarily because he liked it, but because he saw it was a need. So professional development definitely is important, especially if you're in the same field for years and you have to learn how to do your job in a brand new way. And because technology is advancing and it is changing, and like it or not, you have to learn what's going on and what's becoming new, and learn how to use those new tools in order to communicate, in order to do the job, and in order to keep up and serve the customers.
Tyra.
Technology changes in healthcare is just like, what do you mean? It's always changing, so it's like really? But it's so many things. And in regards to technology itself, a great example is at Parkview right now, we've recently gone through a documentation. Really, it's more than just documentation. It's a whole communication system. So we've upgraded from one system to Epic. And so part of that Epic, part of the goal is that our communication will be streamlined, our time, the nurse at the bedside, the time that nurse uses to document, to show, the story of care that they have provided has already decreased the time that has been needed. So that has been one area. In regards to practice itself, it's so important that in regards to the caregiving that we are, researching, that we're reading, that we know what is the new procedure, what is the new process, or a better way of doing things, because it is so not acceptable to sit back and say, well, I'm just used to doing it this way, and this is how it has to be done because I don't want to have to learn something new. It's not acceptable. So part of nursing, part of healthcare is the change, the advances in technology, and it's something that you have to be involved in. Your heart has to be there, and you have to be in it. Because if you're not, then you're going to be left behind, and likely you're not going to be providing excellent care. Because we know that excellent care, excellent quality, excellent service means that you are keeping up with technology, you're keeping up with the changes, and not only keeping up, that maybe you're going to be the next one who develops something that's ahead. So you have to be there. So, and I'm glad about that.
Dr. Nowak.
Well, I brought one of these with me today because when I worked on my undergrad thesis and my master's thesis, the word processor and the program with its graphs and its diagrams fit on this floppy disk, at most a double density 2.44 megabytes of information. Now, technology has grown so much that I've had the opportunity to go to places like, I don't know if you can see this, but with USAID, the United States Agency for International Development. I've taken several trips to the Balkans and worked in Kosovo and Macedonia, and there are some things that you just have to do on site. We did a 3-day classroom makeover where we renovated a rural classroom with the whole community pitching in together, just like the TV show Home Makeover. The USAID helped to build a geothermal and solar-powered green school as a model to the Balkans, and I had to be on site because I helped design the chemistry and physics labs and the technology labs. There's some things you have to be there for, but the first computers that I built cost $3,000, and today a smartphone is magnitude times more powerful than those $3,000 PCs that I built just in the early 90s. So now, while I continue to do trips overseas, and we'll be making a trip to Bangladesh again here in just a couple of months, a lot of things can be done through Skype and through online means, just like Adobe Connect, which we're using today. And so the way that people communicate and the growth of technology and how it keeps evolving and changing and becoming more user-friendly, and even the ability to control computers with your eyeballs now rather than needing a mouse and a keyboard, or the touch screens which are needed for Windows 8 and the iPad and so forth. Those technologies keep advancing rapidly, and in the very near future we'll be wearing our computers. So you have to stay on top of it. It requires professional development to stay with it. And I've got friends in IT services here at IPFW that have become great friends because there's such a need to partner and keep up that we end up hanging out so much. We go have lunch or go get some subs and have fun trying to keep up with the technology. But it's also allowed us to do more easily than we've been able to do in the past.
And what would you identify as a major area of growth throughout your career aside from technology? And we'll start with Tyra.
The major area of growth. I think, in my opinion, it really is, it's a combination. It really is the technology because we know that we need that in order to, give better care. But I also think that we have re-recognized the importance of those people skills. That in order to, that has been something that we have been, for example, learning how to communicate, learning how to help people feel at ease about different procedures or their care, whatever is going to happen to them in our care. So I think that has been a re-emergence of people skills. So, Matt.
Lorna. I would agree. People skills as well, communication, the ability to communicate with different people. Toastmasters is something that really helped me in getting involved in that, like a worksite Toastmasters group to help you practice your public speaking skills in different areas. And it's very valuable to be able to get your point across in the right way because, for example, in a fast-paced manufacturing facility, the words you use, the way you use it, the timing you use it can make a world of difference in getting buy-in from people. And so it's very important. I remember one time I was approved to go to a conference with the Society of Automotive Engineers, and this conference was multilingual communication in the automotive industry. Again, at the time I was a project engineer in Navistar, so it wasn't really directly related to my day-to-day job. But when I went there, it was funny because I was in a room full of translators, people that represented, either they were translators themselves or they represented translation companies, managers and things like that. And someone joked about which is better, a translator that understands engineering or an engineer that's bilingual and can do translations. And most of the people in the room started laughing and said, there's no such thing, engineers can't communicate. And I was like, hey, wait a minute. And I talked to a couple of the translators in there afterwards, and I was like, what was that about? And she was like, yeah, I didn't understand that. That is the perfect combination. An engineer that has language skills and communication skills is very valuable, and it needs to be more prevalent in today's society. You can't be, well, you can, but it's becoming less and less that an engineer can just be an introvert and work at their table and don't talk to anybody, and when they give a presentation just be dry and give a bunch of facts. That's becoming less and less able to be able to do that. You're going to have those communication skills.
Dr. Nowak.
Well, it's funny because we didn't collaborate ahead of time, but I have the exact same two reasons written down for this question. Technology is ever changing, so it takes due diligence to stay on top of technology. And then beyond that, perhaps the most important thing, ironically in an era where students might be in the same dorm room texting to each other rather than talking, it's the people skills and the communication skills that are most important, the ability to partner with others. We talked a little bit about mentors and good mentors. Two strong Clydesdale horses hitched to a cart can pull more together than they can with their best pulls individually. The sum of their best pulls individually is not the same as the amount that they can pull together. At the same time, if you put two horses unequally yoked on there, you're going to have conflict. They're not going to be able to pull it all. So the ability to communicate and partner with others is the most important skill that we need today. And regardless of the technology, those interactions and partnerships are critical. The NYSTEM Center just received another big grant to do some more outreach into our community, but it was in partnership with other centers. And my students in my classes, we're going to be at the Boys and Girls Club today doing some work preparing for a big Science Day event that we're going to do on April 23rd. It's in partnership where my students will benefit from working with the kids there, and the kids will benefit from working with the students. So it's in partnership and communication that I think we grow the most and also receive the most benefit.
Where do you see yourselves in the future? And we'll start with Marna.
Okay. Well, that's a tough question because I have already created a business name for a business that I want to start. But this is another skill that's very important, is that I have so many ideas, so many things I want to do in the area of language and terminology in the automotive industry and also other technical industries. But I have to learn to put it together and focus on one thing, calm down, and settle down and get good advice on what I really want to do. I would like to be an entrepreneur. I like to start that way, but it is very difficult. I know that. I know our entrepreneurs. I've seen them go through that, and so it's not something you just jump into because you think it's fun. Because it's probably not going to be fun for a while, maybe part of it. But so in the future, in the far future, I see that in me. But in the nearer future, I want to do better at my current job, and also I want to look more toward the service side of the automotive industry. And so I'm looking at that and how I can serve in that way, especially with the language skills and in the global automotive world as well. So not really defined, but that's how I'm going.
Nurse Watson.
Again, interesting that you said that because Marta and I had kind of talked about that before we came on camera. Right now I'm finishing my master's degree in nursing leadership, and so that's what I'm preparing for. I know that's what I eventually want to go back into, but how, where, when, I don't know. And so I think it's terrible to say I don't know, but it's actually okay because I'm focusing on finishing it up right now and somewhere in nursing leadership, but I don't know when, where, and how.
Dr. Nowak.
Well, we all have different gifts and abilities, and so when I think about where I'm going to be in the future, I don't know. I think it's good to have open doors and leave doors open so that you have opportunities, and so to develop your skill sets to try to be as readily available as you can if things change. But because we have different gifts and abilities, we really need to be working with others. And so I have done some entrepreneurship workshops overseas, and I have an LLC with two of my sisters where we work together with our different strengths collaborating. But most importantly, I think I love my career now. I love working with students, I love working with teachers, I love being able to partner with community organizations that are non-for-profits or just service-minded that want to make a difference. And so if I were able to determine the future, which nobody can, and say where are you going to be 10 years from now, if I were at IPFW with the same title doing what I'm doing now, I'd probably be pretty happy.
Do we have any questions from our audience?
Our first question comes from an IPFW student, and it is, looking at the job market, how would you guys recommend getting the 3 to 5 years experience they all seem to be asking for?
We'll start with Tyra.
Well, nursing, we need nurses, so if you're going into nursing, I think that considering, especially in our area, considering long-term care or acute care in regards to hospitals, is going to be a great start because you need to have some basis, learning how to be organized, learning how to recognize basic problems, learning how to critically think. You had stated that before, but that critical thinking is going to take you a long way because it's not just going to be somewhere you learn it at the beginning of your nursing career. You need to learn how to critically think in every area of your life and every area of your career. So I think, for the nursing portion, certainly getting in, like I said, in an acute care or long-term care facility is going to give you a basis and allow you to build.
And when you say long-term care, does that include like the home health care as well?
Yes, that could be home health care. I will say though, in regards to home health care, not that you certainly could not start there. Typically in home health care, you're more on your own. And although you most certainly will have connections or resources that you can call, it's even more extremely important that you have critical thinking skills when you're in home care because you may not have somebody that's right there. So you will certainly, have a link to them. But so yes, it's good to start there, but I think that you most certainly need to have, even before the home care, having some basis of, taking care of patients in an organized area first before you're venturing out on your own. So that's not to say that cannot be done, but that would be where I come from, is that you would definitely need to have another basis of, care with other people and having all those resources with you and then venturing out to home care.
Marna?
I think in engineering specifically, internships are very important because, for example, once I changed my major to mechanical engineering, I had an internship every year. I interned with Cummins Engine, with Pimkin Bearings, with Chrysler as well, and so I had a lot of experience before I even graduated. Also opens doors for you as you go into the job that you're going to get as a professional. So in some fields, they might, maybe like healthcare, maybe they're not paid internships sometimes, I don't know. So it might be difficult, but it's very important to get that skill before you even graduate. And the 3 to 5 years is kind of difficult unless you break away from school and work that way or take part-time, and work full-time like some people might do. But that's a tough question because I do see that a lot. But if you're really creative while you're in college, you can think of ways to have some experience that will really show the person that's interviewing that, okay, they might not have 3 exact years, but they know this, or they've done that, or they've taught this, maybe they've done some volunteer work that has given them some experience that adds to their education already.
Dr. Novak?
Yeah, I think in my field in education, one thing that you can do is try to find out what the requirements are, plan accordingly, try to lay out a vision for how you could get there. And I know, for example, I have a student that I just saw yesterday again at Science Central. She's choosing to do the H option, the honors program, and that requires some additional work with your courses, but it gives you an extra certification. And so she's doing some of her work at Science Central. I've had a number of former students who have done either internships, there are internships that are required as part of the program, but then they'll do additional internships, taking animals out from the children's zoo or working at the botanical gardens in the summer with the summer education programs, or again, many at Science Central. A student just last year did an internship at the McMillan Health Education Center. And these are locations where they're either unpaid or they get some salary, but they're internships where they get great experience as a student that then they can put on their resume and say, these are opportunities where I've worked with kids with these great organizations. And then in the education field, because they're pre-service teachers, they'll be able to say, I'm ready for the classroom because I have all of this experience. And that's helped them tremendously. And others have stayed in the informal education field and taken paid positions, because obviously there are going to be paid positions there. They'll still get their teaching certification, but that will help them keep a job at a Science Central or at the Children's Zoo, where they have a passion and they get to do exciting things with children and different children on a day-to-day basis sometimes, rather than just in the classroom. So experience in seeking those out, they're usually there if you're intentional, and they've served my students very well.
Go ahead.
And in regards to the healthcare, because there are certainly other healthcare positions out there other than nursing, and so there are internships that are available. And however, if you are, specifically in nursing, then getting a position as a nursing assistant or a certified nursing assistant and getting that experience is going to be absolutely best in regards to helping you prepare for that. So.
Any other questions?
We have a question from Wendy, and she asks, what suggestions do the panelists have for someone who has had a long career and is now looking for work due to a reduction in workforce?
We'll start with Dr. Nowak.
Well, depending on what your background is and what your career was and how interested you are in continuing in a related field or doing something different, there are college programs, associate degree programs that can help you learn a whole new field, and that might be something that would be worthwhile to pursue. IPFW certainly has many offerings, and we have so many different programs, and you may not have to be a program completer to get enough of a background for the career that you wanted to sort of restart or expand into a related field in. So I would encourage you to look at what the offerings are here at IPFW. And other universities in the region have other opportunities as well. But then the other thing is networking with people is probably the greatest key to getting back in the workforce or continuing to move forward. And so online programs like LinkedIn and connecting with people at the university, just talking to people in that field, in the workforce and in academia. People know people, have a good resume put together, and if you need help with that, our Career Services Department here at IPFW will work with you and help you to create a good resume, and then share that with many people, because you want to have as many opportunities so that the right door that you want to open will be there for you to walk through. And so I would be intentional about working with Career Services to try to find the right opportunities to fit your skill set and your interests.
Tyra.
Of course, as in regards to nursing, and me meeting lots of people that are new to the hospital, at least our hospital. So many people that I have worked with or either I have taught that have made nursing a second career. So of course I am a champion, for nursing. And if you have those people skills and you like working with people and like learning something that's changing all the time, then nursing is certainly, our doors are open.
Marna.
Okay, as you may know, Navistar is closing its facilities, its engineering and design facility here in Fort Wayne. The test track is still here, so that's a very real close situation where you have a reduction in workforce at this location at least. So a lot of friends of mine are going through this or have gone through this. But some of the options that they took was one, relocation, to follow the company where they needed to go. The other is going back to school to go another direction. And another is contract work. So sometimes they've, I just learned this one person has a really nice job in Indianapolis, and they pay for his travel down there, and they pay him a good wage. It's contract work. You never know when it's going to end as far as the next contract and everything. But that comes up as well. Companies cannot stay still. No matter how broke they are, they're going to have to keep innovating because their competitors are, and their customers need more things as things progress. So people are out there looking for engineers. They're out there. They might be a small company you might not hear of. You might drive by and see a sign for it, or there might be I don't remember what you call it, but companies that hire people temporarily until there's a permanent position opening. There are things like that you don't normally think of that are out there, and I see people taking advantage of that every day. And of course, the other thing to do is entrepreneurship. Those opportunities are out there as well, and so it's not a lost cause. There's a lot of need out there. It's kind of strange for me to hear about the job losses and the unemployment rate when I see so many advertisements saying we need engineers, we need these people, we need this kind of skill, and so there are shortages out there. So you just have to look, and like he said, when he said networking, I popped up because that's so very important. Because people, I've been able to point people in directions they never would have thought to look for jobs. So, and networking is very, very important.
So what I'm hearing is, I'm sorry, Dr.
Well, I was going to mention, but you mentioned that there are needs, but that's in an engineering field where there are shortages. So again, that's being intentional about getting that skill set developed over time for fields where there is a great need.
And one of the other things I'm hearing is that for one to be willing to think out of the box and to be willing to step out of their comfort zone. Any other questions?
Wendy is typing a question. Oh, she just said thank you. It looks like that is the end of the questions.
Well, that is right on time because it's 1 o'clock and we are at the end of our STEM panel webinar. Thank you for tuning in. We would like to thank Dr. Jeff Nowak from NISTEM and the School of Education here on the campus of IPFW, Tyra Watson from Parkview Health, who's a nurse educator, and Marna Renteria from BF Goodrich. And tell us your position again.
Process quality technician.
Process quality technician. Well, there you have it. And once again, we do thank you for joining us for this very informative and thought-provoking discussion.